Ferrari came into the Silverstone sprint weekend with a pretty clear focus, fixed the overheating issues they suffered at the Red Bull Ring, and tried to stabilize the SF26 through high-speed running. At Austria, both cars struggled across the race distance. Lewis Hamilton dropped to 5th after earlier podium form, and Charles Leclerc finished 8th, with both drivers reporting issues linked to overheating and straight-line efficiency. That forced Ferrari into a slightly different direction for Silverstone. So for this weekend, the priority wasn't just pure performance gains, it was cooling and rear-end stability. They brought a revised rear corner package, including larger inlets and outlets, and reprofiled bodywork at the back of the car. The goal was simple: improve airflow through the rear of the car to reduce overheating, while trying not to lose aerodynamic efficiency. And Silverstone was the first real test of whether that balance actually worked. Before we get into it, if you're enjoying these short F1 breakdowns, make sure to subscribe. I'm posting weekly race analysis, sprint breakdowns, and upgrade reviews throughout the season so you don't miss what's actually changing in the championship fight. Now, into the sprint qualifying. Ferrari showed strong pace immediately, with Lewis Hamilton putting the car on sprint pole with a 1:28.376, just ahead of Kimi Antonelli by 0.011 seconds. Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc were also right in the mix, with the top group separated by only a few tenths. What stood out wasn't just Hamilton's lap, but how consistent Ferrari looked across the whole sprint qualifying session. Earlier in the season, Ferrari's problem has often been fluctuation, strong in one segment, then losing stability or grip in another. At Silverstone, especially through the high-speed sections, that inconsistency looked reduced. The car looked more settled through long corners like Maggots and Beckett's, which usually points back to better airflow stability and improved cooling consistency at the rear of the car. Because when a car overheats, it doesn't just affect the engine, it also changes aerodynamic efficiency, especially around the rear bodywork. So Ferrari's cooling-focused upgrade is likely playing a role in stabilizing that performance window. Then we get to the sprint race itself, where things became more interesting. Kimi Antonelli converted his pace into a sprint victory after overtaking Hamilton mid-race and managing the gap to the finish. Hamilton initially controlled the early part of the sprint from pole, showing that Ferrari had strong one-lap and short-run pace. But once the race settled, Antonelli and Mercedes had a clearer edge in sustained pace and race management. That overtake on Hamilton was the key moment, not just because of position change, but because it showed Mercedes had slightly better overall efficiency once the cars were in clean air and pushing at full race rhythm. Ferrari was still competitive, but the gap in sustained pace became more visible over the sprint distance compared to qualifying. So when you combine sprint qualifying and the sprint race, a pattern starts to form. Ferrari's upgrade package has clearly improved their one-lap performance window and helped stabilize the car at high-speed sections. But over longer running, even in a sprint format, Mercedes still look more efficient in managing pace and maintaining control at the front. So the takeaway from the Silverstone sprint weekend is pretty simple. Ferrari have taken a step forward in terms of stability and cooling performance, and that has translated into stronger qualifying pace. But Mercedes and Antonelli specifically are still slightly ahead when it comes to converting that pace into controlled race execution. And that difference is exactly what Ferrari is still trying to close.